Welcome to the Wally Show Aftercast, the things we didn't get to during the course of the show today. Sorry we were not here on Friday. It was kind of a quick thing. We were supposed to get a snowpocalypse, and we got a lot of snow. I think we got about 5 inches of snow in some places, and for us, that's a lot. For whatever reason, though, this was not bad. We had a ice snowy storm last year that was like a week, and we were in hotel rooms so that we could come in here, and it was really bad. And this one was supposed to be bad for like a day, so they told us that they were shutting the building down on Friday. And it was nice because normally the jocks still have to come in. And they shut down for everybody else, but they're like, oh, no, you're expendable.
Nah, yeah.
And so we're like, oh, man. And then our boss was like, yeah, you guys should just put in a best of for that day, too. It's like, oh, you care about us. Oh, thanks. Heart fingers there, Jeff. And so we did not have to come in. I was dumbfounded at how not bad the city handled it this time for us. Like the next day, for example, my daughter was flying out. She had a 3 o'clock in the afternoon flight, and I kept telling her, you're not getting out of here. The airport's going to be a mess. You're not getting out of here. 4 flights before hers had been canceled. Her flight was one of the only ones that got out. I guess like later in the afternoon, they were fine. And her flight had 125 empty seats. Oof. I would have thought the people that were canceled from earlier would have been flooding to get on that flight because they were all to the same place.
Maybe they just assumed that they weren't going to take off.
I don't know. And yeah, didn't show up, but I kept asking her to I had her check her app the whole way to the air. My daughter. And then my wife starts crying. I'm like, what? And I roll down the window. I'm like, what is going on? Like, what did I miss? And she's like, I just love you guys. Oh my God. I'm just going to miss you. Aww. She wants to move back to Tennessee so bad. And so when she gets married and stuff, I'm hoping, but then her fiance / soon-to-be husband works in Orlando where she's working, and she's got nothing holding her there, but he's working like at Disney, and he's trying to make inroads there. But I would love nothing more for them to come home because she's at her best here, you know? Yeah. She's surrounded by people that love her, buy her stuff.
Financially good decision on her end.
Yeah, no.
Like, what if they get married and they're like, actually, we're going to move back to Tennessee, but we have to live with you for a while?
Oh, sure, I'd take it. I would 100% take it. I like him, and I love her. Well, actually, I can't say, I just love them, and I love him because I'm learning that. But I it's weird to say that, like on the podcast or whatever. But I love this kid. Like he's a good kid. He's good for her. And so I think to watch them grow over time will be, amazing. But yeah, I could totally do that. Like if they had to do that, it'd be fine.
Because how long has he been in her life now?
2 years.
2 years?
And he's proved himself time and time and time again to be really good for her. And she's not always the easiest, honestly. Like, yeah, I know. Really, my kid. I sometimes I feel bad for him, honestly. I tried to protect him. I tried to tell him to walk away for his own good. No, but like, so... Yeah, because she gets emotional or she has anxiety stuff, and that can be hard to manage. But he's so kind to her in that, and so balancing for her.
And what's the ironic part of it all is that him and Marty, your wife, have had talks about this is how you deal with it.
Yeah, they probably have.
She's giving him tidbits on how to deal.
They probably have because Marty and Spencer seem wired.
There's a thing called ADHD. Yeah. Have you heard of it? Great.
Well, that's the funny thing is you mentioned like Marty and that all of like our best friends. Marty is like the husband and I am like the wife of our friend group. Like the wives are usually a little unhinged and a
little more emotional.
Yeah, a little more emotional and like super outgoing. And she always gravitates to that in her friend group that she looks for. But then the husband is usually more low-key and more subtle, funny, but subtle like she is and not as prone to outbursts. And so it is interesting that that's how our friend groups align as well.
Do you find that to be the same with you, Gavin?
Probably, yeah. I think I'm like the more like caring person in our situation. I'm the more like, I'm the one who cares more about keeping us social. With people.
Really?
Like that's like
So she would not be social without you?
Not so much.
Really?
No. Like I personally like exist in a world where we have our friend groups, but then I have my friends in town that I organize things with, do things with. And so when I go out and do things with my friends, which, requires her to stay home with Bennett,
right?
It's hard because the person who used to get her out of the house to do things without me or Bennett is moved, and so
sure.
I have to encourage her to seek out those opportunities.
Question: do you feel like she has a harder time making friends than you do?
Yeah, I think so. She's I can like flip the switch of like being outgoing when it comes to meeting new people, and then I'm good at saying, okay, I want that person to be my friend, and then I'll pursue the friendship. Whereas I think Haley kind of operates more in a world where she kind of lets it come to her, or it's organized via the couple I reach out to.
Sure.
Let's talk about this a little bit, because I have found myself in a similar situation where I get frustrated at times, and at times I mean like maybe 2 days ago, where I think I've said this before. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've gotten more extroverted, but I don't know if extroverted is the right word. I think as I've gotten older, I've gotten more intentional.
Oh.
Let me finish.
Sorry, I was trying to help you. There was a pause.
Intentional.
Okay.
And by that, what I mean is I feel like I am constantly the one that's having to reach out to my friends and say, hey, let's do this. Hey, let's do that. Come up with the plans.
Right.
Come up with the time and the date, making sure people are on top of it, because if you don't get it on the calendar, it's not going to happen.
Right.
And I get frustrated at times because hardly ever do I feel like I get the call or the text from someone saying, hey, let's get together and let's do this.
Yeah. Right.
It feels like it's always me having to reach out.
Haley was always like that. She was always the one that had to do things with the friend group and push to do things. Mm-hmm. And then there'd be other times where they were doing stuff and like, wait, why didn't you call me? You know? And so she lived that life. When you are, well, you're a 9, she's a 2, Enneagram stuff. Mm-hmm. But like when you live that life where you care about other people, you inevitably open yourself up to hurt, because you care more sometimes about them than they care about you, and that's really hard to wrestle with and understand. And sometimes it's not that they don't care about you, but they don't always think of everybody. Well, you think of everybody.
I think another hard part of it too is that in my age group, most people are married and with kids. Mm-hmm. And so I have 2 best friends, but they're both married and with 2 kids.
And they don't live here in town.
Yeah, they're not close by. And so it's hard for me as a single person when the people I reach out to, we have a great time, but they're always... That's not a priority for them, where it is for me.
Right.
And I have to try and not take it personal when it's constantly, it feels like me always having to be the one that's like, hey, let's get together. Hey, let's do this.
My wife did say, she goes, because I was telling Marty that you love Alaska and you would like love to go back to an Alaska cruise, and Marty was like, I'll go with her. And so like my wife's always looking for any excuse to take another vacation. Take another vacation. So if you ever decide to go on Alaska cruise,
oh my gosh,
you can
that
go
would be
Marty.
So much fun.
Yeah.
Me, your wife, and your daughter, we go on an Alaska cruise.
Spend my money.
And spend your money.
That'd be great. How did you get into that?
Wait, but
I love that idea.
You have invited Betty on like two things that probably would inherently spend money on her for.
Oh, I would probably treat her to some things on that. I probably would have. But
I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
When was the last time?
Well, the last one was the wedding, because we were like, hey, go stay in Ireland and travel with us.
But I'm thinking about what was the last trip. I guess it was Alaska.
Yeah, that we were all together outside of work trip stuff. Yeah. I think so.
And it's nice because, to some degree, because I can check out and I can just follow y'all and not have to think about where's the gate.
It's nice to go on vacation and not be the organizer.
That's the thing right now. Like normally,
you're exhausted.
Like Marty will plan stuff. Marty and Greg, when we would travel with them, would plan everything, and then I got to just like go, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I loved it. But on this trip, like for my daughter's wedding, we're going to Ireland. She's getting married in Ireland. Who's entitled now? But no, so they decided they want to get married in Ireland. Spencer, ironically, was the one that wanted a castle wedding. And we're like, fine.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. So anyway, but it's great. And so I'm really excited about it. But we're over there, so we're like, we're going to spend another week over there and make the most of it. We're going to go see Darren Mulligan from We Are Messengers.
I mean, that's cool.
Have tea with him because he lives right near the castle where she's getting married. And so, like, but then all of a sudden... my sister and her husband were like, oh, if you're taking Mom, we're going to be there obviously too. We'd love to hang out with you guys and travel with you after. I'm like, absolutely. Then some of our best friends, Paul and Rhonda, who we didn't think were going to go to the wedding because of the cost, were like, you know what? We're in too. We're like, all right. And so they're like, if you don't mind, could we travel with you too? Like, yeah, let's go. But so now we booked everybody booked their airfare last night. Everybody booked their hotels last night because Marty was finding the hotels so that we could save some sort of money because I'm paying for all my mom's and ours. But we all had to be at the same place to make it easier. So Marty was doing that and coordinating with those people. I'm trying to plan all the excursions to go, the things to do. And so I've mapped it out. I got a calendar. I got a thing. And what will kill me, though, is like I've worked really hard on it, and it makes total sense to me, is when I go, hey, here's what I want to do. Like, here's what I think we should do. I think it makes sense. And then people will be like, oh, I don't know, or I don't want to do that, or what if we did this? And it'll just undo. So I have to be mentally prepared that it's not going to be the exact way that I have it written, even though I think it's pretty good. But other people are on this trip too, and they have their likes, and I have to be cognizant of that. I did book one thing already though, and I booked it for everybody because there was only one left. And I had originally flown the idea out, and I think everybody was like, oh, that's cool. Like some people were more excited than others. Yeah. But it was in Ireland, in Dublin, you go to this lady's home, and it's a cooking class, and it's for scones and like Irish apple something.
That's fun.
My mom loves to cook, loves to bake. We're going to see her this weekend, and she was like, and I said, Mom, please, we're going to come see you. We're going to be there for 2 days. Don't go crazy and make a bunch of stuff. Because my mom will make appetizers for when you get there at 3 p.m, then a snack before dinner, then dinner. She'll whip up. She'll start like a meatloaf at 4 o'clock and be like, "Do you guys want to eat at 4:30?" I'm like, "I don't think that's gonna be cooked." Like she does. Like if I'm gonna make a big meal, I start earlier in the day. She just wings it, and like it's always great. And so I was like, please, you don't have to do any of that. She's like, but I love cooking for people. That's her love language. And I said, you know what? Then do it all. Go whatever you want to do, Mom. You go nuts. And then I'll just need to eat it all. Yeah, and I'll power through it. But so she's going to be really excited about that. I think that'll be really fun. Yeah. And so my sister and David, her husband, seemed like they were down with that. My friend Paul and Rhonda, they love that stuff. They've done one at Disney and stuff. So that's like one thing I'm like, we have to do this. Yeah. And so looked at that, which was kind of cool. And then some other like day trip stuff. There's a studio that you can go to, a recording studio, and they'll let you mix like a song and stuff. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And the things to do over there were relatively cheap. Like that's $23 a person to tour the studio. I'm like, oh, that's great. Cool. So yeah, but Viator or Viator, however you want to say it, through TripAdvisor, it's a great way to find things to go do on trips, especially when you don't know anything about where you're going. Right. And so far, that's the stuff I've been finding. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be kind of cool. Everybody good after snow day, snowpocalypse? Yeah. I went walking around the neighborhood with my neighbor, and we took her dog with us, and it was a lot of fun. My wife can't understand that about me. Like when I woke up on Friday morning, and it had only been snowing for a little bit, and I knew I was going to sit at my kitchen island and work most of the day. And if I was here, I'd love to have a coffee. So I'm like, I'm going to Dunkin'. So I go to Dunkin', and my wife.
Did you call first to see if they were even open?
Took a chance. It's Dunkin' people. They're going to be there in Spring Hill, not up here.
Okay.
No, in Spring Hill. My Spring Hill Dunkins are great. And so I'm like, they'll be there. And so I told my wife, I'm like, I'm going to go out and get coffee. And I was going to get Haley because she was staying with us, my daughter. I was going to get her coffee too because I know her coffee order because I have it written down. And so she's like, why are you going outside? Why? The roads. I'm like, if it goes really, really badly and I die, you're a millionaire. Like, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, but you want to go out and trying to get yourself a coffee from Dunkin'?
Yes.
I can think of better ways to go.
I love being out there. When no one's out there, it feels post-apocalyptic.
I don't
You're
get
the
it.
one car on the road. You're the one making the tracks, and you don't have to drive on one side of the road. The rules do not apply.
Yes, they do.
No.
Yes, they do.
You can drive in the middle when there's no lines. You create your own lines.
This is why us normal people
I
stay,
love it.
because there's crazy people like you that just think the
'Cause it's
rules
nice.
don't apply.
It's nice to stay home and look out your window.
Yeah, and
with
stay warm.
with your homemade cup of coffee.
No.
And just watch it fall.
So I went out and at first though, like everything's fine. I'm getting there, no problems whatsoever. I did have to take my wife's car because it has like 4-wheel drive and my truck doesn't. I know, it's funny. So I'm driving there and I drive up to the Dunkin'. I'm like, oh man, the Dunkin' looks closed. I couldn't see the lights really good, but then I see 2 people out in front of it. I'm like, are they just waiting or are they working? And I see a puff of smoke. I'm like, oh, that's an employee. That's an employee on a smoke break. Yeah, let's go.
I bet she has
time
some
was it?
history at a Waffle House.
Yeah,
Don't you think?
yeah, it was early. It was like 7:30.
Nice.
Oh my word!
And so-
I'm still asleep.
I go maybe 8, and so
Still
I go
asleep.
to turn in there, but then it was a little icy on that
9?
road, and I hit the brakes because I like didn't know where the turn was exactly, and I slid a little bit, but it's just a little bit. So then I just went down and
That's a new car.
I
What
know.
if you totaled that thing or wrecked it?
insurance.
It's not worth it.
So then I went and turned around in the Burger King and then went over there. And this lady was so nice. She's like, love, what can I get you? I'm like, oh, love, come on, let's go. I'm so glad you're here. And so I made my order and I got Haley's and I was so thankful. I said, man, I didn't know if you guys would be here or not, but man, I'm really glad you guys are here. Thank you for coming in and working on today. She's like, I don't know if we'll be here tomorrow. I said, I don't know. You're here today. That's all we're going to focus on right now. And then I tipped her really good and then left. And got home, no problems. It was great.
It was
And the
easily,
coffee was not right.
My coffee was
That
perfect.
would have been a bummer.
I would have been bummed if that was the case. No. Oh, it's perfect.
It was nice to have the snow over the weekend without the repercussions of a week of not being able to leave.
Yeah.
Because we've had, 2 in the last few years where you just had the ice fall and then it froze and it stayed cold. And then we were locked in for a week afterwards. It was nice to get it and be done with it.
And then it fell on the weekend so that you could go out on the weekends and it wasn't dangerous. The roads cleared up like within a day.
Yeah.
And so then it was you still had your weekend, which was really nice because we went out, we went shopping, we went to lunch and stuff, and it was a normal weekend
it's
for
still
us.
funny though because our church canceled
Yeah.
in-person church maybe
Love
due
that.
to a couple little icy roads, and then I was still seeing signs of schools being canceled today.
Really?
I was really
So
nervous that they
crazy.
would cancel Bennett's school, and they
Yeah.
didn't. I was like, thank goodness.
Yeah, there's no reason for that. The roads are 100% fine.
Totally fine.
Oh, yeah, I know. So, yeah, and Gavin is funny because I went on Friday, we thought we might have to come in. I'm like, Gavin, they'll get us a hotel room. And he was like, oh, no. And I'm like, what are you knowing about? I thought you'd love to have a night off, man.
I would.
Like you have not thought this through.
No, it's an inherent yes to the time off, to the time away.
Yeah.
But it's also,
Tell your wife, I got to go make that money, girl. That's
He
what
would
I got
never
to do.
hear the end of it.
I know, but she makes just as much as I do, so it's
But you got the time off. I can't. They're going to fire me if I don't come in.
I have a lot more days
Yeah.
off than she does.
Oh, yeah. You just tell them Wally fire me. I can't risk it.
I'm too scared. I'm going in.
Yeah, I'm
It
waiting
would've
for the
been
one
nice.
day when I come in and you guys are just like, nope, I'm not coming in.
We did that one time where you were the only one who got here. I couldn't get
Yeah.
out of my parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
and then
that's
we
bad.
both did the show from home.
Yeah.
And I remember using a gaming headset microphone.
Oh, nice.
And we just embraced the bad
Yeah.
that week.
I don't
Yeah.
remember that.
You still had a little bit of an at-home setup because
Must have
of
been close to COVID. I don't
COVID.
remember that.
Yeah. Anyway.
I just remember getting my car stuck on the
I know.
side of the hill,
I know.
and I had to walk home.
That was bad.
And I was,
not happy.
Fit to be tied.
and your face was in my mind.
Why
and I was
me?
just gonna,
Why
Because
me?
you were the one that was like, no, come on, let's just do it.
It's
It'll
fun.
be fun. No, it's not fun. It's not fun. I have a paid-off car.
Yeah.
That's
I am not
true.
going to ruin that.
Well, and that was my whole mindset
No!
I was like, well, if you guys do come in, I'm probably still just not because I can't afford more car stuff.
Your idea of fun is stupid to me.
Yeah, the whole driving out in the
It
road.
is. It is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's a brand new car.
Yeah.
What if something had happened? And not even you. What if it was someone else that was like, rules don't apply?
Yeah.
La, la, la.
Yeah.
And then they crash
out.
into you.
It worked out. Everything was fine.
Yeah.
But what if it happened?
But what if? Yeah, what if Jesus came back tomorrow and caught you in your sin? Like, what if? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That landed a little too close to home, didn't it, Rock?
No, I don't think your logic is normal.
No, I don't. Yeah, because you can what if everything. You want to take calculated risks. Like I would not have gone out if it was really bad.
It really was not that bad.
It really wasn't. Like there was, like even in my neighborhood, which is normally bad, it wasn't bad.
But I'm saying you don't know how bad it is until you get out there and you experience it.
They didn't know where America was till they set sail.
Oh my God.
You know, and I discovered Duncan. You know, so like
I don't understand your brain. I don't get it.
It's fun.
Someone's got to take the chance. Then I could post and say, "Hey, Duncan's open." People are like, "Yeah."
I mean, like even the Duncan people.
No, we had the best time.
They didn't get a free pass on just going to work that day.
If they're going to be there, I should at least go patronize them and do something nice for them because they had to work. So it was funny because my friends that we're going to travel with, their daughter works at that Duncan, and we had seen them on Sunday. We met them for lunch. And I was telling them the story about going there, and I said, "Yeah, and there's a lady on a smoke break," and she's like, "Oh, that's Iris. It had to be, you know, whatever her name was. I don't remember her name."
Iris.
She's like, "Oh yeah, she's the manager. She's always on smoke breaks."
Don't you ever wonder though, like when it comes to Waffle Houses, how do they build such a? Because there are so many fast food restaurants that have a trouble getting their employees to show up.
Yeah.
But Waffle House somehow has managed to keep the people, their employees coming.
No, it's not
what.
home. I know why.
Why?
It's court ordered. It's work release probably for most of them.
It'd be funny if, like, it's
I
funny
am not
because
laughing at that.
I think it's probably
That's not funny.
You're not denying it either.
There's a very small percentage chance that's accurate for a lot for a sum of.
What about if that was Iris's case?
The guy with the neck tattoo of a snake wrapped around it, biting his chin, I think is has to be there.
But boy, can he make a mean waffle!
And I don't begrudge him a bit. Like you keep doing that, sir.
I tip that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's terrible. Hey, we were gonna. Oh
no, it's okay.
We were gonna talk about the California fires.
Oh yeah. It's pretty bad. I watched it a lot over the weekend. My wife watched a bunch of it. She got really consumed by it, and I'd hear her listening to these videos and people just screaming in fear. And this one, there's a few videos that are making the rounds that like a lot of people are saying, but one was like these two guys and a dog in this house, and you can see the flames, huge flames, literally in their backyard, and they're still not gone yet.
Why?
Like, how are you still
Yeah,
there?
I'd be out.
Like, you waited too long. But I've been through fire scares before, both in California and in Florida, where my wife was calling me, giving me updates. I was at work. She was giving me updates every few, like 5-10 minutes if she was gonna be evacuated. I was telling her what to get in the car, and I had my neighbor helping her and stuff to load stuff up if she had to go. And it's weird. You try to prioritize what's important to you, you know, and then you've got to go.
Imagine.
And then, these people lost everything. Like that thing's gone.
How do they tell residents that they need to evacuate? Is it like a cop car going down the street?
They do that, yeah.
It's on the news,
Yeah,
radio,
both. All of that. They hit all the channels when it gets really, really close. And a lot of times, too, people on social media and everybody's talking, hey, we're under evacuation. Sometimes you don't even know. But, you'll hear that car. You were under a mandatory evacuation order now.
But they still won't make you leave, right? Like, if you wanted to stay, you could.
Technically, mandatory evacuation means you have to leave. But then there are people all the time in Florida that are under that, but they stay. And
I don't understand.
Yeah. And like a lot of times, like first responders are like, look, you're going to put us in danger having to come back and get you. And so I think that's a sobering thing, because a lot of times you get really focused, like, I need to stay with my thing. But you can't, man, you're not going to beat Mother Nature.
Help me remember with the Hawaii fire.
Lahaina.
Why were there so many people that died in that one?
It was like this. It was fast moving.
And the emergency thing. I thought it was like their emergency broadcasting sirens didn't go off in time.
And there was nowhere for them to go.
Yeah.
That's why people were jumping into the water.
And
like they
the
basically
smoke's
had
there.
the water and the fire. Like it swept through there fast.
Why wasn't there like the same thing with California and evacuation?
It was so quick. Like that was, I think, the thing about Lahaina was it happened, and then it happened quickly. I think it was they said it was from a transformer or some power line, which now they're saying one of the fires might have been started in California like that. But then it swept through there. 43 people, I think, died in Lahaina. I think 24 in these fires.
And with a lot of like Hawaiian cities too, especially something like Lahaina, when you think of California and LA, you have everything along the coast, but there is a lot that still goes inland. I think in a lot of Hawaiian cities, there's just the city and then there's nature. There's not
Those
there's
mountains
only
of trees.
out or out. And if it gets cut off, there's very little room for
nowhere
them.
to go.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
The interesting thing, I showed Betty and Gavin a time lapse of the fire. And like at first, because you've got the coastline and all the houses on the coast, and then it goes up into these hills that caught on fire. So the hills catch on fire, but then the Santa Ana winds are blowing all that stuff down. And then it started catching the coastal houses on fire where they don't have a lot of foliage and stuff like that. And then all of that turns into a tinderbox, and each house sets the next house on fire, the next house on fire. And this whole area is just, every house is gone.
Well, and also, too, the insurance situation, which you said this earlier, people still have to pay a mortgage on a house that has burned down. But what is that money going towards? Because
your debt. I mean, you own a debt for it. And so until... I don't know if you can call your insurance company in extreme things like this, or your bank, and go, my house is gone. I can't make payments right now. I don't know, but like maybe in a natural disaster, but basically house or no house, you're paying on the money that you've promised to pay them back. And that's what your mortgage
terrible.
is.
People can easily go bankrupt in that situation.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can't pull yourself out of that hole. And two, we read something that said in the news that there were a lot of insurance companies that before this had all happened, they dropped a bunch of policies for fire protection because they would have gone bankrupt had
something like this happened.
And then it did happen,
right.
And now these people have no protection.
It's the same in Florida. Florida makes hurricane insurance really expensive because it hits every year. Same with fires in California. And so insurance companies are in the business to make money. They're not there to really protect you. They want to make money.
Right.
And so
only the ones that are super rich can really afford it.
Yeah, they hedge their bet. I mean, my mom has insurance on her. That's the irony. You have to have homeowners insurance. Mm-hmm. It's how much or how good you get is the question. When you buy a home in Florida, you have no option, which is good. But then, like, State Farm for a while, like, was not writing insurance policies in Florida. So you had to go to, like, Farmers or go to some other brand where they were just like, we're not writing insurance policies because it costs us too much down here. And so California struggles with that. California is a mess. I watched a lot of posts of people saying, well, they get what they deserve, because there's a lot of politics factoring into this. Like, Gavin Newsom has made a mess of some things, and some of the policies that they've enacted led to these things. And I'm not going to dive into all of that, but it's people. There's a lot of political finger pointing right now. But I think one of the worst and most egregious examples of it, from what I heard, was that there were 60 fire trucks from Oregon coming down to fight the fire. They got held up in Sacramento because they had to pass emissions tests to come into California. The whole
insane.
Like, environment in that area is smoke from fires.
Yeah.
Do you think these fire trucks are going to do any damage at all? But that's California.
So
California can't get out of their own way. The policies that they do are incredibly, like, they're counterintuitive to logic. And so, I lived out there, and I felt little bits of this at the time. But it's gotten so bad, and that's why you see so many people, like a lot of areas in the South, and as you come east, are like, all our housing values have gone up because Californians are buying everything in cash because they paid big money for their houses, they sell them, they leave California because it's gotten crazy, and they've got a bunch of cash to work with, which then raises the property values in your place.
And I think I told this story, but I used to have a roommate that was from California, and her family lived over there, and she invited me to come over with her one summer and stay with her and her family. And she told me, she said that
they're doing some drilling upstairs. Yeah,
that's Wally.
We think.
But she told me, she said, "Oh yeah, the house that my parents live in is like $1 million home."
Right.
And I'm shook.
And you're like, I can't wait to see this mansion.
Is a mansion. I get there, and it's just like a simple house on a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's like a one story from the Brady Bunch looking days. Yeah.
Like, how does anybody afford to live there?
My house in California, when I was living there, I knew the people that bought in that neighborhood. We got to be friends with them. They bought when it first went up. $285,000 they paid for that house when it was first up. So there you go.
Okay.
Not a ton for a house, especially in California.
Very normal.
Normal, nice neighborhood, nothing wrong with it, but nothing fancy. Mm-hmm. I bought at $415,000. I sold at $5,000. 2 years later, that house sold for $1.2 million. or 3 years later, $1.2 million. That $285,000 house sold for $1.2 million.
Crazy.
There's no way it should have done that. Yep. But California, everything is expensive out there.
Yep. Like, I have two friends that are they sell, what do you call those, realtors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
what do you call those?
And I feel like since I've known them for probably 2-3 years, every client they have, 90% of them are from California. Yeah. They're all moving here and they show them like $750,000 homes. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's doable.
We'll do cash.
Whereas us, who have lived here forever, we're like, are you kidding me? I can't afford that.
Yeah, and then your mindset has to shift because you're like, well, okay, I guess $600,000. I mean, it's a nice house. But you're like, I would have never dreamed of even looking at a house like that.
$500,000 home.
Yeah, but now all of a sudden in the areas that we live, that's what a house is now. It's insane.
It is.
And like you hear these poor young kids that now they're paying 7% interest on that loan. They're getting a house. They're not putting a bunch of money down, and their mortgages are $3,500. It's insanity. But then rent is $2,200.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah, rent is crazy too.
It's hard to win.
It is kind of similar here in Nashville too.
Yeah,
like the pricing of places. I remember looking at like Zillow listings before 2020, and right now, like Haley and I could have afforded something here in Nashville. Now, a $250,000 home, a starter home, let's say, gets you a max 3 beds, 1 bath. Fixer-upper.
And good luck finding them.
And for the most part,
in a good area.
You're asking to go Antioch, or you're looking to live in 40 minutes north, 40 minutes south. And Haley and I work in like the 3 corners of town at this point.
Yeah.
So there's just not a good place for it. So this city's disgusting too.
Yeah, like my house, I bought when the real estate market was down. And so the timing was fortunate. I was blessed at the time, although I just lost like everything on my other house that I sold in Atlanta that I kept for years so I wouldn't default on it, but I kept paying on it when everyone else was defaulting during the housing crisis. And, and so I bought when the market was down. Now, when I sell, I'm going to see a 3 times return on that money, which I thought I might make 10% on that money because of where we bought. But things have just blown up, and I'm thankful for it. But then what do? Where do I go? I sell that, but then now I got to buy a $800,000 house.
The strategy only makes sense. Like, if you're someone in California selling your normal $1.2 million home, you can move to Nashville.
And you buy a $500,000 home.
From Nashville, it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Move to Oklahoma City or somewhere.
Yeah, they're going to get a nice home too. Like they go from a shack in California, $1 million shack in California, to a really nice
Brentwood
home
or Franklin.
Yeah, $500,000.
Oh yeah, that's when I was looking at homes, we were doing the open houses, and I was talking to some people from California. They're like, I can't believe this. This house is 3,500 square feet, and it has 8,000 square like a quarter acre of land. And they're like, I can't believe this. I'm at 1,400 square feet in my house, in California with no land. And, and they're like, this is 400,000? I can't even fathom it. They couldn't believe it.
What?
Yeah. And then they all offered 200,000 over asking and ran it up so no one else could buy the house.
So frustrating.
But I mean, that's just real estate. That's the way it goes.
Well,
but anyway, one real quick thing. The one thing. Oh, yeah, we got a meeting. The one thing that I thought was interesting, and there's this one like conservative political guy I watch on TikTok a lot, and the thing I liked what he said is instead of saying you get what you deserve, California, his point was you get what you voted for. And I went, that's a pretty big distinction because it's not like, oh, you deserve bad things to happen to you, but it's like you put these people in power and now you're reaping what you sowed because you thought all these liberal agendas were so good. And now you're seeing the things you really care about and you really need are being left behind because of the money spent on this other stuff. And so I thought his distinction of that was really good. I'm like, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
And that's, by the same token, I don't think, celebrities, they deserve it. No one does. No one deserves to lose their home. I don't care who you are. It's hard. You lose everything, man. Now, can they rebuild faster? Yeah, that's great and good on them. and I'm happy for them. But I do feel bad for the people that are like, I got to pay a mortgage on a house that doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So it's rough, and it's crazy because it's not stopping. So it'll be interesting to see when this thing actually gets put under control. All right, well, that's going to have to do it for our Aftercast. And as always, thanks for being a potty.
Growing up in poverty has never been easy for children, but with the added challenges of the pandemic, conflict, and natural disasters, families around the world are facing an unprecedented food crisis. Unfortunately, those who are already hungry are now even more desperate. But by sponsoring a child through compassion, you can help provide life-sustaining essentials such as food and clean water. And with your compassionate support, that child can not only survive, but also flourish. You can find out how and choose a child to sponsor when you click on the compassion banner at wayfm.com.